Welcome back to the Google Ads series for cardiologists. So I wanted to just do this really quick bonus video. This is going to be toward the end of this educational set. There should be like 8 to 10 videos at this point, but I wanted to add this just about campaign settings. So at this point, you have created your keywords, you've created your ad copy, you've built that out in probably the Google Ads editor, or just imported it directly into Google Ads. Everything is set, but there are some campaign settings that you really need to be careful about. So I'm going to take you through those campaign settings right now. Let's get into it. Okay, so here we are in the test campaign that we created. Again, this is just a test account that I loaded all of the cardiology keywords and ad copy into. So we are going to pretend that this is set and ready to go, but you have to really be careful about something, because if you don't, Google has a sneaky way of pre-configuring your settings, which can cost you a lot of money. Okay, so you got to be really careful and go through this. I would suggest just going through these settings one by one. Campaign name is just the name, of course. We use isolation internally. We call it isolation because, again, it's manual CPC with exact match keywords. So this is the isolation campaign. Marketing objective. This doesn't really drive anything. We just say no goal guidance on that because it doesn't really have an effect. So we're going to cancel that one out. This is one that you need to watch out for. So Google, if you just load this up or create these things with Google's guidance, they are going to pre-check the search network, which includes Google search partners, and they're going to pre-check the display network. This is a search campaign. So you definitely don't want display network. You can do display network later for sure. I would recommend that, again, thinking about that timeline where we're launching different campaign types over a period of time. Display comes way later, right? So we've trained the algorithm as to what success looks like with conversion tracking that's accurate. We have those conversion signals, a minimum of 30 conversions per month before we start doing anything like this. In conversions being like bookings or form submissions or phone calls that last X amount of seconds. But we would launch a display network as a display campaign. Search network, search partners, this is something you might want to test later on as well, and it expands your search campaign outside of the native Google Ads search network. What you have to be careful about with search partners is that a lot of times this can end up in bot clicks. So I've seen this in certain accounts where somebody has set up bots to click on your ads, and then they monetize it by setting up different platforms where they get paid for those clicks. So if you go, and it doesn't happen all the time, maybe 5% of the time I've seen it. So you got to be careful about it for sure. I would always launch without search partners and then test it out, later. You could segment out your conversions when you're looking at the performance of your campaign in Google Ads. You can segment out your conversion actions and see, or actually your network, to see exactly where those conversions came from, either the Google Search Network or this Google Search Partners Network, and then compare performance. If you see great conversions coming in that you can correlate to actual conversions and actual value for the practice, then keep it checked. But just be very careful about that. Okay, so that's under networks. Budget, again, we talked about this in previous videos, what your daily budget should be. This is an internal calculation and something that you should. Every market is different, right? So your budget's going to be different. Your cost per click is going to be different for all these keywords. So we talked about this in previous video, doing a profitability analysis to some degree. We can help you out with that, by the way, if you ever want to have us create the campaigns for you, for sure. But that's going to guide you as to what your budget should be. Again, some markets are very competitive. Others are just moderately competitive, right? So your budget is really dependent on your market. All right, conversion goals. You could probably start with account level. So you have account default conversions. So when you're creating conversions, and we covered this in a previous video as well, when you're creating the conversion actions, you set them up as lead forms or phone calls or contacts or book an appointment. So Conversion goals usually can be set at the account level, like we're seeing here. But if you ever wanted to do something specific, where there was a very specific conversion action that you wanted somebody to take post-click, and you wanted to measure that through a specific campaign, then you would go in and set your conversion goals again specifically to that particular conversion that was set up for that objective. Here's your bidding. So this is what we call internally an isolation campaign. So again, it's manual CPC because we have the tightest amount of controls, in combination with the exact match keywords, right? So you can change your bid strategy here, but then this is an isolation campaign, right? And these are terms that we use internally: isolation, exploration. If that doesn't make any sense, we covered it in previous videos. So this is where you set your bid strategy. Bid equally for new and existing customers. This is healthcare, so it doesn't really matter. We're going to be bidding for new customers anyway because we can't really remarket. There are some carve-out exceptions where it's not specific to a procedure, but that's a lot of detail that we can't get into on this particular video. But just know that this is most likely going to be bidding for new customers only anyway, versus like remarketing and showing ads to somebody who's already been on your website. Okay. Here's your location settings, and this is a tricky one as well. Google hides this one from you. So down here called location options, what you want to do is make sure that you have presence, people in or regularly in your included locations most of the time. Now, there could be some exceptions to this, of course, but the alternative is presence or interest, people in or regularly in or who've shown interest in your included location. So what happens here, or what could happen, is somebody could be searching for any related cardiology searches, and they might not even be in your market area. They might be somewhere on the other side of the world for all you know, right? So just select presence, people in or regularly in your included locations in the very beginning, and probably just keep it that way. Languages, so English is, I believe, what it defaults to. If you're in a Spanish-speaking location, for example, if you're in Arizona or Florida and you have a high population of Spanish-speaking, or any other language for that matter, what this does is it targets the language settings in the browser. Okay, so somebody their native language might be Spanish, but then they're typing in English and doing searches in Google Ads in English. If you're not targeting Spanish in that particular use case scenario, then your ads will not show to them. So if you're in an area that has a large population of another language where their language settings on their browser might be set differently, then just go ahead and add those other languages. Okay, it opens up new markets for you, or just keep it on English. All right, so automatically created assets. This is what I would keep this off. This allows Google free reign on just creating content from your landing pages. And it's, so it's use my content for my landing page, domain, and ads in combination with assets I provide. So you have little control. Google's just going to create these dynamically. We already went through the process of creating your ad copy. There was a whole structure, there was strategy behind it. So I would just say off, use only the assets I provide directly for my ads. Okay. Here's your start and end date. A lot of time we just leave the end date not set at all. Broad match keywords, you don't want to use broad match. If you do use broad match, we do it specifically in the campaign that uses broad match, and we control it. We put up guardrails called target CPA with max conversions with broad match, and we talk about this in a previous video as well. Okay, but if you're creating a campaign, especially one like this, then you definitely don't want broad match. Okay. Dynamic search ads. So this would be it'd be using these URLs to automatically create ads. That's not what we're doing here, so I would just leave that off for sure. Optimize the best performing ads. Go ahead and leave that on. The ads that we have, this is kind of a carryover from a long time ago, but the ads we create have 15 different headlines, 4 different descriptions. So those ads are being optimized anyway, based off of the dynamic pulling and displaying of different headlines and descriptions off of all those different options. And we covered that in a previous video as well. So just say optimize, prefer best performing ads. Okay. And then campaign URL options. These are tracking templates. So you can actually set up different parameters, such as your UTM parameters, if you want to track performance of this all the way into, for example, Google Analytics 4. Although there's a setting within, and I'm going to show this to you in a second, there's a setting within Google Ads that allows this to be tracked without any UTM parameters whatsoever. What happens is that there's something called a GCLID, G-C-L-I-D, Google Click ID, that sends over a very long alphanumeric character on every single click to your website, and that gets logged as a cookie. There's other tracking mechanisms that Google has as well, but just staying with GCLID, it gets logged as a cookie, and that's how Google tracks where that click came from. And if you have a CRM that is capable, you can actually track that all the way from click to lead to patient, all the way through, just based off of that. And there's certain CRMs that are outside of healthcare that do this natively. For example, HubSpot and Salesforce. All right. IP exclusions. So you can exclude certain IPs, and this would be later on if you see that somebody's like, if there's click fraud in your account, and you're seeing, clicks coming in over and over again, and they're costing you money. Now, I will say that Google does a really, really good job at preventing click fraud. I mean, their reputation is at stake here, right? So if they see somebody just clicking on your ads over and over again, they're not going to count that as, they're not going to bill you for all of those clicks. That's going to be caught right up front. And then in addition, there's a second layer of fraud protection that happens where Google goes through, they traverse your account, they look at all of the data that came in, and they match it up with patterns on anybody who's been exhibiting fraudulent activity, or they know what to look for because they've seen this so many times, and that will actually end up in your bill as a credit, and you won't get paid for it. So there's double protection there, okay? And then on brand lists, you can add brand exclusions as well. Okay, so I normally don't do this. I actually create a brand campaign that's separate, and that brand campaign focuses on the name of your practice, focuses on the name of the doctors in your practice, and then that scoops up all of this traffic automatically, so you don't have to do brand exclusions. Okay, so let me take you into something else. In your account settings, so go to admin and click on account settings. You'll want to make sure that auto tagging is turned on. So when you click on this option here, that's what activates what I just mentioned previously, the Google Click ID, GCLID, that long alphanumeric character that ties all the way down to the keyword level of the click. It allows you to be able to track, what produced that conversion. So you don't really have to set up, URL tracking at all. So it's, click that and it happens automatically behind the scenes. So make sure that that's clicked, and then call reporting, you'll probably want to turn that on as well. And I think that one's defaulted to on, but just double check that, okay? And I'm going to mention one more thing. So within the campaign itself, so I'm going to go into cardiology again, isolation, this test campaign that we created. You want to take a look at your settings here. I'm sorry, correction, not your settings. You want to go down to assets. So again, I'm in this, you can see it. You can obviously see what campaign I'm in up here, right? So I'm in cardiology isolation. You want to go down to where it says audiences, keywords, and content, and click on audiences. And you'll see down here there are different demographics that you can set. So with cardiology, most likely you want to zero in on specific age groups, right? So you don't want to, there's an unknown category. I would just leave that alone for now. You can test it by turning unknown off. But if I add an age filter, for example, you can see the different ages that you can target specifically. So for cardiology, it would probably be somewhere here between 45 and 65 plus. You can also do gender-based targeting, so male, female, and you can do household income targeting. Now, when we add household incomes, it looks like this. So you have top 10% of income, top 11 to 20, 21 to 30, etc., right? So a lot of times, if you're not interested in targeting lower levels of income, you would select lower 50%, apply that, and then check this box to select all of them and click edit, and then simply exclude that from the ad group, and it just removes it from all the ad groups that are in the cardiology isolation campaign, or whatever the campaign name is that you've created in your account. So that's it. That's it for now. We've covered a lot for sure, and hopefully you found value in this bonus video as well. And just as I mentioned before, I'm always here to help. The stuff is, there's a lot here, right? And we covered, this is over 3 hours of training. And this is, covers most of it, but there's way more than this as well. But this will get you started. But at any point, if you feel like this is just too much, and I totally understand if you feel that way, if you're dealing with an account that's already established and it's just not performing well, I can definitely help you with that as well and getting this on the right track. I've been doing this for over 22 years, so I have a lot of experience in creating structurally sound campaigns that generate conversions, real conversions, and profitability for cardiologists. So just reach out, brandrocket.net/schedule. We can have a quick 15-minute conversation so I can understand your goals. I can put together a quote for you. And if that matches, then we start working together. All right. It's as simple as that. All right. Again, hopefully you found value in this. If you're finding this video on YouTube, please like and subscribe to the channel. And I appreciate you sticking with me through all these videos. And we will see you soon. All right. Thank you.